A third difference is tactics. Tactics. Israel's A third difference is tactics. Israel's armed force say that they places considerable emphasis on civilian protection. Nonetheless, Israel's bombardment of Gaza has been intense by historical standards. It dropped 6,000 bombs on the territory in the first 6 days of the war, a rate of ordnance far exceeding American and Western counter-terrorism campaigns. In Mosul, for instance, the American-led coalition dropped 7,000 over 2 months in the most intensive period of bombing. On October 13th, a former deputy commander of the IDF's Gaza division told the Financial Times, "When our soldiers are maneuvering, we are doing this with massive artillery, with 50 aeroplanes overhead destroying anything that moves." Tactics are shaped by how an army views the stakes of a war. The nature of the enemy and that of the surrounding civilians. For Israel, the war in Gaza is existential in a way that even Mosul or Marwi were not, says Anthony King of Exeter University, referring to a battle between the Philippines Army and IS in 2017. Israeli officials increasingly describe Hamas as akin to IS. Akin. Akin. Akin.
Akin.
Israeli officials increasingly describe Hamas as akin to IS, an enemy with which compromise is no longer possible. Nor does the IDF have the same affinity with Palestinian civilians that Iraq forces did with the compatriots they were liberating from IS rule. Compatriots. Tactics are shaped by how an army views the stakes of a war, the nature of the enemy, and that of the surrounding civilians. For Israel, the war in Gaza is existential in a way that even Mosul or Marwi were not, says Anthony King of Exeter University, referring to a battle between the Philippines Army and IS in 2017. Israeli officials increasingly describe Hamas as akin to IS, an enemy with which compromise is no longer possible. Nor does the IDF have the same affinity with Palestinian civilians that Iraq forces did with the compatriots they were liberating from IS rule. In Mosul, Iraq's political leadership from the Prime Minister down insisted that great emphasis be placed on civilian protection. Lieutenant General Basim Al-Tai, a senior Iraq officer, was in charge of the humanitarian operation. He was carrying the weight of the Mosul population on his shoulders. says General Jones. He cared deeply about the civilians. Caroline Bondot, an advisor in the Civilian Protection Unit in the International Committee of the Red Cross in Geneva, agrees the commander's intent in Mosul was extremely clear. Even then, the experience of different parts of Mosul is instructive. The east of the city, viewed as the more intellectual and urban part, suffered less damage. The old city in the west, where IS made its last stand, was viewed by Iraq forces as more conservative and IS-friendly, and emerged far worse. Mindset in which you fight affects your planning, your conduct, and even the reconstruction, says Miss Bardot. If you operate on your own territory as opposed to in another territory, you might not have the same care of civilians. The role of medical facilities is especially contentious. Contentious. Contentious.
Contentious.
Contentious. Contentious. The role of medical facilities is especially contentious. 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 The role of medical facilities is especially contentious. In the previous rounds of warfare, Palestinian hospitals and other civilian relief centers were marked on Israeli military maps as non-strike areas. Some were hit in past wars, but none intentionally. But none intentionally, claims Israel. In this war, Israel has ordered the evacuation of northern Gaza, including hospitals, which it says are used as Hamas command posts. Under the laws of war, under Under the laws of war, hospitals lose their special protection if they are used for military purpose. But even then, armies can only attack them after due warning and a reasonable time limit. The role of medical facilities is especially contentious. In previous rounds of warfare, Palestinian hospitals and other civilian relief centers were marked on Israeli military maps as non-strike areas. Some were hit in past wars, but none intentionally. Claims in this war, Israel has ordered the evacuation of northern Gaza, including hospitals, which it says are used as Hamas command posts. Under the laws of war, hospitals lose their special protection if they are used for military purpose. But even then, armies can only attack them after due warning and a reasonable time limit. Mosul again provides a point of comparison. IS used the city's hospital as a stronghold. Commanders spent weeks deliberating whether it could be attacked, says General Jones, considering other options such as the use of snipers. Slowly, over